country's civil war has left a deadly legacy not only of lives lost and cities destroyed, but in the silent, lingering threat of unexploded ordnance. From Khartoum to Omdurman and beyond, schools, hospitals and homes are now littered with dangerous remnants of war. As displaced families return, they are walking into what experts describe as a minefield, a literal minefield, both literally and figuratively. So joining us now is Mohammad Sediq Rashid, the chief of the UN Mine Action Service in Sudan, to speak to us about the scale of the threat and what work is being done to mitigate it. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Rashid.
Very good evening to you, and thank you very much for having me.
By using the terms silent and lingering, so it does suggest a certain level of, insidiousness. So it means that the being aware of the problem is one thing, but obviously, as we mentioned, the threat of those whom it will affect is far greater because they don't know what they're literally walking into.
Absolutely. The brutal aspect of this challenge is that the contamination is left behind in densely populated areas, in urban settings. And first of all, there are a lot of people living, millions of people living in the cities. And second, although in Sudan, the Mine Action Program is operational for many, many years, but the focus of the work was mainly in the rural areas. So people, very large number of people who used to live in many cities and now displaced, and many are stuck in the conflict zones, they are largely unaware of the threats that they are going to face. So that's a very worrying challenge. And then it's a fact, when a battle takes place, and normally the ammunitions that are used are not designed for urban areas, and almost all types of ammunitions leave behind, a significant percentage of unexploded ordnance. I mean, when ammunition is used, when it's fired, it's not going to detonate. It doesn't mean that it's going to be safe there. It will become more sensitive. It will be there indiscriminately everywhere. It will be, especially if you think about the urban setting. So it will be on the rooftops. It will be, stuck in the walls. It will be buried under the debris. And it will be everywhere. It will affect critical infrastructure. It will be on the roads, which is currently, lots of reports are coming in from the capital of Sudan, that there are unexploded ordnance everywhere, in the streets, in the hospitals, in the clinics, in the public service delivery areas, in the mosques. So it's quite worrying. The scale of the contamination is very high. It is not just Khartoum. Yes, Khartoum remained an epicenter of the ongoing war, but the conflict spread over many other areas. Many other, several cities, towns are affected. And so the problem is so widespread. Thousands of battle events have taken place.
So I'd imagine that as the war spreads, obviously more areas are affected and there are even more people who are displaced. So the danger then, I'd imagine, grows in scale as well.
You are absolutely right. As we speak now, every day, the problem is increasing because, if you look at other conflicts around the world, like, for example, Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria, for years, the civilians there were facing the threats of, they are still facing the threats of unexploded ordnance, the landmines. And also here, although the major problem is unexploded ordnance, but there are quite a few reports indicating the use of anti-tank mines. And in some cases, very recently, we heard about the use of anti-personnel mines as well. So this is really worrying, and a lot needs to be done to make sure the people are protected. And accidents are happening, very heartbreaking accidents, particularly those groups which are returning, returning population. They are at greater risk. Children are at greater risk. It's very, very difficult to control children.
And I'd imagine that because children, even if you do civic education work to say, look out for these kind of objects, do not touch them, children are children and they're curious by nature. And is it more difficult to identify these objects in a war situation or during peace? When is it easier to get a stranglehold on the problem?
Well, of course, when the war is going on, one of the key challenge the humanitarian workers are facing is the access. So going to the areas is difficult. The first thing that as mine action experts we need to undertake a rapid survey of the affected areas to identify, what kind of threat is there, what are the real boundaries of the contaminated areas, what is the priority of the area, which area, because we don't have hundreds of teams to be deployed to everywhere. There are very few teams, and we should follow the prioritization. So the survey, when there is peace, when there is, but in Sudan, actually, despite war is going on, these days, significant areas have become accessible, and the work is possible. Actually, some work is going on now, which is very minor. Is not a bigger capacity is needed to quickly address the problem.
So tell us about the work that you do and the challenges you face as UNMAS. How do you go about delivering clearance? Is it specific equipment that is needed, and do you have the enough resources to do so in so widespread an area?
Sure. Before the war, the mine action program here was, functioning well, relatively equipped. But as the war started, we lost all the technical equipment. Yeah, pretty much all the equipment, and personnel were scattered. So that was actually we restarted everything from scratch in terms of the mine action response. So it took us required us to make a lot of efforts, and then the critical challenge that we were faced was the funding challenge. Even we had confirmed funding for this year, at the beginning of this year, but then suddenly, the donors actually they decided to suspend, and they asked us to return the money. So we were actually our program was closing on the 31st of March, and we were lucky. When we reached out to many other donors, and then some donors, generously supported the program, and then we managed to restart our work. So what we are doing is now the most important thing is at this stage, which is doable, is sensitize the people as much as possible by disseminating some basic safety messages, so that when they go, when they see something, they should not, move it. If it is an item or unexploded ordnance is stuck, a rocket is stuck in the wall, they should not pull it. Things like that. We did that. So we use direct and indirect explosive hazard risk education methods. We actually disseminated a lot of radio messages using the local radios, social media, and so this work is going on. This is going on. As I said earlier, the number of people who are at risk are significant. It's, I think it's more than 13 million people we are talking about that they are potentially at risk of explosive hazards. So this is a large number of people, and we need really lots of efforts to make sure that they're fully aware. So we are trying to work collaboratively with the Ministry of Education, for example, to make sure that some lessons are integrated into the education system. Teachers are trained, and work with other organizations, for example, vaccination campaign, for example, or food distribution, to distribute some safety messages to the people. So this is what we are doing now. But then the most important work is the actual survey and clearance work. You have to remove the hazards, because normally it will be very difficult for civilians to live without exploded ordnance. Okay. And also it's very, very difficult for the other public service delivery organizations, the hospitals, the clinics, the education institutes, to restart without their areas to be cleared first.
Mohammad Sediq Rashid, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, so we're going to have to leave it there with you, but much appreciated your time. Chief of the UN Mine Action Service in the Sudan. It brings the time to 22 minutes past 9.